Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karunya Ghana Ghanatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nritya Gita Vaditramadyan Manasurasena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Vaju Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Niramajanadu Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasadu Satanna Triptan Hari Bhakta Sanghan Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Kritaiva Triptin Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Shradhikama Gavayarapara Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna Shradhikama Gavayarapara Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swa Dhanalarupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Pratikshana Swa Dhanalarupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Ne Kunja Yono Rati Kelisidhyai Jajali Bhir Yukti Apechaniya Jajali Apechani Tatrati Daksha Atibalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Tatrati Daksha Atibalabhasya Sakjar dharitena samasta shastri uktastatha bhavyataiva sadhve samasta shastri uktastatha bhavyataiva kintu prabhoja priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Priyaiva Tasya Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Dayam Subham Tasya Yasashti Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Dayam Subham Tasya Yasashti Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Dayam Subham Tasya Yasashti Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namah Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatari Shatarine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Yaraya Nama, Krishna Jadavaya Nama, Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha, Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Shri Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe, Radha Nila Madhava, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra, Baladeva, Subhadrama, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Ramanande Haribo. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Prabhajagacharya Suttara Saraswati Shimad ISKCON Pratishta Viviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnav Siromani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhakti Datta Patita Bhagavatanshi Divine Grace Abhacharvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patiti Udhari Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Jayananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Prema Nama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandana Shman Gauranga Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaura Hari Mahavrinavatari Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai Yuga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihadanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopina Radha Kund Samakunda Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajabhum Vrindavan Mathura Ki Jai The Lordship Shri Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai Shri Shri Maya Purnavadvip Eka Chakra Dham Ki Jai Parama Karuna Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Shrimati Subhadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Kari Shingare Bhagavan Ki Jai Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Maharani Vrinde Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Bolo Shrimati Radharani Ki Jai Shamaveta Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaurari Pramanandi Haribo. All glory to the assembly bodies, all glory to the assembly bodies, all glory to the assembly bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namaste, Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pralada Ladada Aine Pralada Ladada Aine Hiranyakasipu Bhaksha Hiranyakasipu Bhaksha Silatangkanakalaye Jaya Silatangkanakalaye Ito Nisingo Parato Nisingam Ito Nisingo Parato Nisingam Jato Jato Jamitato Nisingam Bayir Nisingo Judaye Nisingam Bayir Nisingo Judaye Nisingam Narasimha Madhimi Sharanam Prapade Tabakara Kamala Bare Nakam Adabhata Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringa Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Tabakara Kamala Bare Naka Adabhata Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringa Kesavadita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Kesavadruta Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Kesavadruta Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jayo Nishingade Jayo Nishingade Nishingade Jayo Nishingade Jayo Narahari Jaya Narahari Narahari Jaya Narahari Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha Jayo Bhakta Prahlad Prahlad Mara Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Prahlad Mara Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo जय श्री श्री भक्ति पथ सर्वविघ्न विनाशन कर सिंगरे भगवान की जय। भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। श्री नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। निताय गौरी प्रेम नंदे हरि हरि बोल। श्री वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्यारे देवी सतवताए। वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्यारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्यारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। कृष्ण भक्ति प्यारे देवी सतवताय। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी। नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी। नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी।
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी।
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी।
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी।
जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूरा न हो।
जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूर्ण।
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी।
तुम्हें कृपा करे कर तारे वृंदावन वासी।
मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास।
मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दिया।
नयने हरिवो सदा जुगल रूपरासी।
अमी नयने रेव सदा जुगल रूपरासी।
निवेदना
सखीरयनु गताकार
सेवाधिकारा दिए करो निज दासी
सेवायाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी
बिना कृष्ण दास कोई न मोरा होए
दीना कृष्ण दास कोई ए न मोरा
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये न भासी
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 नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि शापानि ब्रह्महत्यादि कानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि शापानि ब्रह्महत्यादि कानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि शापानि ब्रह्महत्यादि कानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी
जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी.
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी.
नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल. श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की
जय. श्री वृंदायै तुलसी दिव्याय प्रियायै केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः. Vrindayai tulasi divyai priyayai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti pradidevi Shatavatai namo namaha. Vrindayai tulasi divyai priyayai kesava satya Krishna bhakti pradidevi Shatavatai namo namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of carry themselves of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always fame and love Shri Radha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Siksastakam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanamarjanam Bhavamada Bhagnivapanam Shayakari Vichandrika Vitaranam Vidya Badhu Jivanam Ananda Vijivardhanam Patiparam Punamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Parampara Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Shvarane Nakala Ita Drishtitava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhai Bhakti Samyade Nanurada Nadati Sunichena Tarorati Saishnana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadari Na dhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitam vaja garisha kamaye Mama janmane janmanishware Bhavata bhakti raitu kishware Ainandatam jakinkaram Paritamam vishname Bhavam buddha Kripaya tava pada pankaja Chitaduli sadrisham vichintaya Nayanam galara shrudharaya Vadanam gada gada rudaya gira Pulakaya rinchitam vapukada Tavanam grahane bhavishyati Jugaitam nimishena Chakyusha prabhusaitam Shunya itam jagat sarvam Govinda virahena me Asli shabhapadaratam pinashtumam Adarshnar marmahatam karotuva Jathatatava vidadhatulam pacha Matpranatastu saivana para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhuttarishmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devim Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasatyadi Satarine Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years, and extinguishes the five conditions of life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth to birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I've fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? Or will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he sure remains so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. He can do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1, to blaspheme the devotees who dedicated their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2, to consider the names of the demigods and Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4, to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures and pursuance of Vedic version. 5, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6, to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. 8, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9, to instruct the fearless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10, to not have complete faith in chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jaivancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaevacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jayananta Kuti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Shri Guru Pranam Mangala Charan. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jota Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana रघुनाथविन्तं तं सजीवं सद्वैतं सवधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादं सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनेति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवं गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चात्यरिशतारिणे नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वती इति नामिने श्रीवर्षभानवि देवी दैतया कृपब्धये कृष्णसम्बन्धविज्ञान दैने प्रभवे नमः मधुर्योज्ज्वलप्रेमाद्य श्रीरूपनुगभक्तिदा श्रीगौरकरुणशक्तिविग्रहाय नमोऽस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्धैरिणतारिणे रूपनुगविरुद्धपुसिदन्तद्वन्तहारिणे नमः गौरकिशोराय सख्यवैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्भरसम्भोधे परमुजयते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपनुगवरायते गौरविर्भावभूमिस्वं निर्देशसजनप्रिय वैष्णव सर्वभौम श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावरण्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनाम्ने गौरतीशे नमः पञ्चतत्त्वमकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतार भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपीकान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते जयतं सुरतुपाङ्गोर्ममन्दमतिर्गतिर्मत्सर्वस्य पदाम्भोजो राधा मदनमोहनौ दिव्यरविन्दरण्यकल्पद्रुमदा स्मरनगारसिंहासनस्थो स्मराधा शिलगोविन्ददेवो पृष्ठलिभि सेव्यमानो स्मरमे स्मरसरसरं विभं श्वाततस्थित कर्षणवेणुस्वानर्गोपीर्गोपीनाथ श्रीस्तुना तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुतिदेवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री ब्रह्म संगीत की जय
ईश्वर
ईश्वर
परमा कृष्ण सच्चिदानंद विग्रह
अनादिरधिर गोविंद सर्वकारण कारणम चिंतामणि प्रकट सन्म सुकल्प वीक्षा लक्षा विदेश सुरभि अभिपालयन्तं लक्ष्मी संभ्रम सेवमानं
गोविन्दमादि पुरुषं तमहं भजामि वेणुं त्वनन्तं अरविन्ददलायताक्षं बाधावतं समस्तं सुन्दराङ्गं कन्दार्पकोटिकमनीय विशेषशोभं गोविन्दमादि पुरुषं तमहं भजामि आलोलचन्द्रकलसद्वनमाल्यवंसि रत्नं गदां प्रणयकीलिकलाविलासं श्यामां त्रिभङ्गललितान्यताप्रकाशं गोविन्दमादि पुरुषं तमहं भजामि अङ्गानि यस्य सकलं त्रिवृत्तिमन्ति पश्यन्ति पन्तिकायन्ति चिरं जगन्ति आनन्दचिन्मय सद्विज्वलविग्रहस्य गोविन्दम् आदिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि अद्वैतम् अच्युतम् अनादिम् अनन्तरूपम् आद्यं पुराणपुरुषं नवयौवनं च वेदेषु दुर्लभम् अदुर्लभम् आत्मभक्तो गोविन्दम् आदिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि पञ्चाष्टकोटिशतवत्सरसम्प्रगम्यो वायोरतापि मनसो मुनिपुङ्गमानं सोऽप्यस्ति यत्प्रपरिसंय विचिन्त्य तत्त्वे गोविन्दम् आदिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि एकोऽप्यसोरचयितुं जगदन्तकोटिं यश्चाक्तिरस्ति जगदन्तचयायिरन्त अनन्तरस्त परमानुचयन्तरस्तं गोविन्दम् आदिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यद्भावभावितधियो मनजस्तथैव सम्प्राप्य रूपणमि सुक्तर्यमेव निगमप्रतितैस्तुवन्ति गोविन्दम् आदिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि आनन्दचिन्मयरसप्रतिभाविताभिर्य एव निजरूपतया कलाभि गोलोक एव नवस्तात् अखिलपभूतो गोविन्दम् Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksadeva Hidesu Vilokayatayam Sham Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitista Nana Avatar Makarod Bhuvanesa Kunta Krishna Swayam Sama Bhavat Paramampamanya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabhavato Jagananda Koti Koti Svasesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahmaniskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Yasya Jagananda Satani Sute Traigunya Tad Visaya Vida Vitayamano Sattvavulambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Matayamana Suya Prani Nampratilvan Saratamutetje Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Kolo Kanamni Nijadamni Tale Chitasya Devi Mahesu Aditama Sutesu Tesu Tete Prabhava Nichaya Vitasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Sistista Tipalaya Sada Vasakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Abhyasya Chitesta Tesa Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjaya Tena Hitata Pritakasti Yasambutama Pitata Samapaitikara Yat Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Hita Santaram Abhupetya Dipayate Vita Hita Samanadam Yastadrike Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krom Hamakrod Vajitisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupa Adhara Sakti Mavalambya Paraswamurtim Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamatavalam Yajivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalavisesa Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Vasmanya Tasma Sakalesa Nijesu Tejas Sriyam Kiyat Prakatiyat Apitadvitatra Brahma Yesa Jagadanda Vidhanu Karta Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dwande Pranama Samayesa Gnati Raja Vignam Vihanta Malamasya Jagatrayasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahi Gaganamambu Maruti Sasya Kalasta Tatma Malsiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Jamsa Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savitasa Kalagrahana Rajastamasta Suramurti Resesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kalachakro Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Topapa Nijaya Sutayasta Pamsi Brahmadi Kita Patagava Desta Jiva Yadata Matari Bhava Prakata Bhavava Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrinda Gopa Matavenda Mahosva Karma Bandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kinticha Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Saja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsal Yamo Guru Gora Vasevya Baba Sanchintya Tessa Sarvisantanam Apurete Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Sriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpatara Vajama Bhumishti Tamani Ganama Hitoyam Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apibam Sipriyasa Kechiranandam Jyotishwaram Apitada Swadyamas Apitasa Yatrasirad Bihisa Vidisarab Yasti Sumaha Nimesar Dakyava Vajitina Yartrapisamaya Bajesvita Divantamaham Il Gola Kamitiam Vidantas Te Santak Suti Varachara Katipaye Shri Guru Vastaka prayers Kijay. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest right to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. Offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master, who's an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing, ecstasy, singing, and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands, and then he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. Offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship of Sri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress these in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is lit, drunk, and such. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasadi, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastime of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting gopis who at different times with different tastes or arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master to be honored as much as Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet as such a spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Grantha Raja Ki Jai, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sava etasya samdrastu Sakti sad asat atmilutmika Maya nama mahabhaga Yayedam nirmane vibhu. Sa, that external energy. Va is either. Etasya, of the Lord. Samdrastu, of the perfect seer. Shakti, energy. Sat asat atmika, as both the cause and the effect. Maya nama, called by the name Maya. Mahabhaga, O fortunate one. Yaya, by which. Idam, this material world. Nirmame, constructed. Vibhu, the Almighty. Translation by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord is a seer, and the external energy, which is seen, works as both cause and effect in the cosmic manifestation. O greatly fortunate Vidura, the external energy is known as Maya, or illusion, and through her agency only is the entire material manifestation made possible. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The material nature known as Maya is both the material and efficient cause of the cosmos, but in the background, the Lord is the consciousness for all activities. As in the individual body, the consciousness is the source of all energies of the body. So the supreme consciousness of the Lord is the source of all energies in material nature. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10 as follows. Maya dakshena prakriti, suyate sa characharam, hitananena konteya jagat viparivartate. Throughout all the energies of material nature, there is the hand of the Supreme Lord as the final superintendent. Due to this supreme cause only, the activities of material nature appear planned and systematic, and all things regularly evolve. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord is the seer, and the external energy which is seen works as both cause and effect in the cosmic manifestation. O greatly fortunate Vidura, this external energy is known as Maya, or illusion, and through her agency only is the entire material manifestation made possible. Guru Premanandi Haribol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Varamicharani Nirvisesa Sunyavari Paskatya Tasatani. So there is a great mystery in attempting to understand the material nature without any reference to Krishna. In other words, it's impossible to understand how the material nature works without reference to Krishna. But this is exactly what the modern scientists do, because they're atheists. They are actually envious of Krishna. Therefore, they avoid any reference to Krishna when it comes to trying to understand the cause and the effect of the material nature. So Krishna is both the cause and the effect. Now, this is impossible for a human being to do, but it's not impossible for Krishna. Now, how do we understand that? Well, number one, the material nature is the inferior spiritual energy of the Lord, Yapara Prakriti. So that's explained. Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter, 5th verse. Parayamitas tvanyam prakriti vidime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayadam dayate jagat. So this verse says that besides the material nature, which is bhumirapo nalo vayu kamano buddhir, besides the spiritual nature, which is bhumir apollo vayu kamano buddhiraivicha ahankrayiti ame bina prakriti astita. Besides the eternal spiritual world, there is also the material nature, which is the inferior energy of the Lord, the spiritual energy of the Lord. And the spiritual world is the superior spiritual energy of the Lord. So that superior spiritual energy is explained in 9.5, aparayamitas tvanyam pakriti vidime param, jiva bhutam mahabaho, yayadam dayate jagat. So, when we understand these two verses, we see that Krishna is the source of everything. Of course, to be able to understand that, one has to believe that there is such a person like Krishna, and that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all energies. That's the key point. The source of all energies. So, this is what scientists are concerned with mainly, energies, because it's an impersonal thing. There's no reference to a person. So, but everything they know of, as far as expenditure of energy, is based on a person. But when they think about the whole cosmos, they refuse to accept that there's a person behind it, and they just refer to impersonal things like energy. So, yes, there are many energies. There's the superior spiritual energy and the inferior spiritual energy. But the source of that is Krishna. Now, in the body also, the body functions due to energy that is feeding it, just like a cell phone functions because of the energy of the battery. The battery goes dead, the cell phone doesn't work, although all the mechanism of the cell phone is there, it's present, but it needs a source of energy. So that energy is coming from the consciousness of the Lord. This is what the scientists don't understand. This is why there's a mystery about where is this energy coming from. Well, the scientists know, in one sense, that the energy is coming, for the material universe, is coming from the sun. But they have the strange idea that there are millions of suns. All the stars are suns also. But actually, the stars, the moon, they're simply reflecting the light of the sun. But the sun itself is the unique source of all the energy in the universe. Now, what is the source of the sun's energy? That's the Brahmajyoti, the light that's emanating from the body of Krishna. So here we see a very subtle sequence of facts, and it's impossible to understand this unless one reads Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, scientists will not read these books seriously, and they depend completely on their empirical experimentation based on observation, and then trying to see some patterns and then making a theory and so forth. So the observation is imperfect because the senses are imperfect. Even if you have microscopes and telescopes, it'll still remain imperfect. Just the concept of the vast space is mind-boggling. There's millions and billions of miles of space, and there are infinite number of planets, and besides that, the infinite number of universes with infinite amount of space and planets. So, therefore, the whole thing is bewildering and beyond the ability of the scientists to conceive. However, when something is explained, then one can have an understanding. So that's what Krishna does. He explains himself in the Bhagavad Gita. And these two verses are very important. So if we read the purport to 7.5, Apariyamitas Tvanyam, besides these, O mighty Arjuna, in other words, besides the material elements, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So he's referring to the jivas as living entities that are his superior energy. So that means there's the Paraprakriti, which is the superior energy of the Lord, which are the Lord himself, all his expansions, including the jivas, which are his expansions. So the jivas are also acting as energies of the Lord. They are energies of the Lord. And it's very interesting, when you look at theories about how the pyramids were built. One theory is that the emperor of Egypt or the pharaohs, they engaged hundreds of thousands of human beings to move these gigantic carved rocks and put them in place in the pyramid. And they used logs and other things to roll such a heavy thing as, each of the carved stones of the pyramid, and they're carved exactly perfectly to fit together, right? That's why they're still there today. To build a building that will last 3,500 years is unthinkable even by the construction magnates today. But they did this, about 3,000, 4,000 years ago, right? So how did they do it? They used human energy. You get enough people doing the same activity, then you can move, such heavy stones. And first of all, they carved them, and then they moved them. So it's unimaginable how they did it, but they did do it. So these things are mysterious. How did they do it? But obviously they did it because you're seeing the what they did. So this is beyond the imagination of most people. They have no actual viable theory other than human energy was used to put these pyramids together. So here it is clearly mentioned that living entities belong to the superior nature or energy of the Supreme Lord. The inferior energy is matter manifested in different elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Both forms of material nature, namely gross, earth, etc., and subtle, mind, etc., are products of the inferior energy. The living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are the superior energy of the Supreme Lord, and it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. Okay, so it's due to energy that cell phones function, and televisions function, and radios function, and rockets function, right? And airplanes function. There has to be a source of energy. So therefore, what is the source of energy of the universal creation? That is coming from the consciousness of Krishna. And then everything that's emanating from Krishna is also conscious in form of superior energy, like the living entities. So when we talk about energy and relate it to persons, that's a disconnect for scientists, not for Krishna. So therefore it says, the cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic, and therefore the living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. They are never equally powerful as unintelligent men think. The distinction between the living entities and the Lord is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:87-30 as follows. This is a fantastic purport. 7th chapter, 5th verse. Aparimita druvas tanu brito yadi sarva gatas, and so forth. O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities were eternal and all-pervading like you, then they would not be under your control. But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. Therefore, real liberation entails surrender by the living entities to your control, and that surrender will make them happy. In that constitutional position only can they be controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who advocate the monistic theory that God and the living entities are equal in all respects are actually guided by a faulty and polluted opinion. Well, here's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that is logical and also very impelling. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:87-30. In other words, it's saying, if the living entities were eternal and all-pervading like Krishna, then they would not be under the control of Krishna. But the fact that they are subject to the supreme control of the Lord debunks that theory. And therefore, Krishna is controlling the living entities. And if they want to be happy, they have to surrender to the Lord. At that point, accepting that constitutional position that they're always surrendered and always subordinate to the Lord, they become controllers also. Never on the level of the Lord, but in conjunction with the control of the Lord, or coexistent with the control of the Lord, they also become controllers. What do they control? They control their mind and senses to be always engaged in the service of the Lord. That's the only thing they can control. They can't control the material nature. They can try and dominate it, but it's a false domination. However, if they learn to control their mind and senses by keeping them focused on Krishna as the supreme object of all meditation and all activities, then they are connected to Krishna, and they're able to do more and more incredible things, like attain the position of Brahma, or attain the position of Vivaswan, or attain the position of Varuna, etc. Because they become a controller by surrendering to the Lord. Okay? This is a completely what you call foreign concept for this mundane scientist. How can you become a controller by surrendering? You see, this is their problem. Well, if you surrender to Maya, you're controlled by Maya, and you're not a controller at all. You're being exploited. But if you surrender to Krishna, you become a controller. You control your mind and your senses to be always engaged in Krishna's service. That means you're a controller. You're in control of the influence of the material nature on you. That's real control. The phony control, trying to control material nature, first of all, it's impossible. And the more one tries to do it, the more they become entangled. However, if you surrender to Krishna, then you can control your mind and senses and keep them always focused on serving Krishna. At that point, you become a controller. But not the controller of the universe, but the controller of our own faculties of thinking, willing, feeling, and so forth. So then it says, the Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and all living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are a superior energy because the quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme. But they are never equal to the Lord in quantity of power. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy, matter, the superior energy, the living entity, forgets his real spiritual mind and intelligence. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free from the influence of the illusory material energy, he attains the stage called mukti, or liberation. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks I am matter and material acquisitions are mine. His actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one with in all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi-energies of Krishna, and when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated. This is an amazing purport. I mean, you could discuss this purport, for many years, and still there would be some questions in one's mind. So that last sentence is very important. It says, therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi-energies of Krishna. And when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated. So, what is he talking about here? He's talking about the energy of the Lord, and we as living entities or jivas, we are one type of energy of the Lord, and he has multiple energies. So the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to help us become liberated from the material energy and be always situated in the spiritual energy. So this is explained also in 2nd Canto, 3rd chapter, 24th verse, which we read some of it yesterday, but I want to read more of it. And it says, the whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So, with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. So that's a big point. We diminish any desire to dominate material nature, and that means that we gradually become detached from the sense of material enjoyment. So, how do you become free from the sense of material enjoyment? That is by increasing our service to Krishna. So that's called Vidi Bhakti, or Vidi Bhakti, or which begins by Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and repeating. So it says, Vidi Bhakti, or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands, and the legs, as already explained herein before, is now stressed herein in relation to the mind, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. So unless we control the mind, I mean, we can control the body. Yeah, someone could fit us with a straitjacket, and our body would be more or less controlled, right? But controlling the mind is much more difficult, almost impossible. It only becomes possible by regular hearing and chanting in the association of devotees and performing regulated devotional service on a full scale of 24 hours a day. So that is by dovetailing all our activities to Krishna. So it says, it is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel-framed, for it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Whoa. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional service. And if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of Godhead. Okay, so this is all precious information from the second canto, third chapter, 24th verse. It continues. If the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha, by Rupa Goswami. In the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about evading the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on end. Okay, so the process of becoming Krishna consciousness is based on following the authority of bona fide acharyas, accepting bona fide guru and gurus, and engaging regularly on a daily basis in devotional service. Eventually, by regular hearing and chanting and doing regulated devotional service, the heart softens and one begins to develop these transcendental symptoms. And there are two major ones, that is tears in the eyes and hair standing on end. Well, you could buy some gel and get your hair to stand on end. And you could imitate tears in the eyes by eating a lot of chilies or something like that. And you start tearing, and your hair stands on end because of gel, hair gel. But that is all fake nonsense. So the artificial imitation of these symptoms is a losing proposition, because one will not attain genuine love of Krishna. Will one make some spiritual advancement? Well, whatever advancement one makes will be nullified by the insincerity of purpose. Everything depends on our motive. If we have a pure motive, then we'll be successful. If we have a mixed motive, there'll be a little bit of success and a lot of failure. If we have a bad motive, then it will be complete devastation. So, then it says, the bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing in the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations. Well, you can see Rupa Goswami was a scientist. He wrote scientific texts. One of them is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, a scientific test mapping out all the different stages of spiritual advancement leading to pure love of God, so that we can recognize what stage we're on by understanding the symptoms that we should manifest if we're on that stage. So this is a scientific book. It's not a book of simply religious speculation. And then it says, Srila Vishwanath Thakur has very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishwanath Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy were imitated by by the mundane devotees or prakriti sahajas, but the pseudo symptoms are not at once detected when one sees the pseudo devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. Okay, so it's not, it's easy to get fooled by the pretenders who imitate these bhava emotions and physical postures that they may take. However, if one is regularly hearing and chanting the knowledge given by the acharyas, they will not be fooled because they're criterions. The criterion is one is not approaching bhava while still having bad habits like illicit sex and intoxication, and meat eating and gambling. So therefore, someone like Paramahansa, someone like Ramakrishna, who claimed to be sometimes Lord Rama, sometimes Lord Krishna, sometimes Hanuman, and so forth, right? But if you look at his behavior, you would see that he was committing sinful activities. Although he was trying to imitate being Hanuman by sitting on a branch of a tree like a monkey, or imitating himself being like Lord Ramachandra. So he was a very clever person. He had a lot of knowledge, even though he was illiterate. He couldn't read, right? But he would hear things from his sister and other people, and he learned about Lord Chaitanya. He learned he was a worshipper of Lord Ramachandra and a pujari. He was trained as a pujari by his parents. But he deviated very seriously, and then he became a Shakta, someone who has Shakti. So when you have Shakti, you do things that are very, surprising and unimaginable. Like sometimes he would eat the dog droppings in the street. Sometimes he would worship the yoni, the vagina of a woman. He'd do all kinds of crazy things, or sit in a tree and pretend he's Hanuman. So, and then whenever anyone would challenge him, right, to a debate, he would go into samadhi and defeat them. Right? You can't argue with someone who claims to be in a state of samadhi because they're being quiet and they're meditating and they're basically hardly breathing. So he would defeat people who would challenge him to a debate by going to a state of samadhi, or seeming to be in a state of samadhi. So he was a very clever person. And he basically ruined all of Bengal with his nonsense. Bengalis still worship him like he's some great person. So, therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishwanath Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees or the prakrita sahajas. Prakrita means materialistic, sahajas, imitators, right? But the pseudo-symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. So the Shaktas, the people who are concerned with Shakti, they will purposely commit sinful activities to show that they're not influenced by it. What? that's obviously they're influenced by it. They're engaging in illicit activities, right? So these are all very, shocking things. When you see them, you're like, you know, it's incredulous to believe that someone who's claiming to be an incarnation of God is engaging in, like, he'll kill, like sometimes Ramakrishna will go around and kill insects, and just did these crazy things that no one could even imagine a saintly person doing, to prove that he was not influenced by the material nature. Now, how that proves that, I don't know. But the Shaktas will do very strange things to their body. They mutilate their bodies also in many ways. And it's just shocking. That's not what Lord Chaitanya did. That's not what Krishna did. So therefore, who is the authority here? The people that will mutilate themselves? Well, those are demons. You have Rikasura. He was cutting off the limbs of his body and offering them in the fires with swaha, right? So that's the demon's activities. It's not a devotee's activities to mutilate the body. Right? And we're seeing that today. You'll see people walking around. They purposely mutilate the bodies. They have tattoos all over their face and arms and their body. This one lady, she divorced her husband, and what did she do? First thing, she went to a tattoo parlor and had her vagina tattooed, and her legs and her vagina. These are crazy people, but today they're doing it. Right? You have all these tattoo parlors, and there's a lot of them all over the country now. That means a lot of people are getting tattooed, right? But with all kinds of crazy things, So that is self-mutilation, and it's practiced by demons. That's what demons do. They self-mutilate. Okay, so we see here that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Rupa Goswami both severely criticize people who imitate these qualities of bhava. And but even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, or illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above-mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes these symptoms are willfully imitated, and for this reason, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms, yet if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. So this is a very important point. We must have some kind of criterion to know if a person is bona fide or not bona fide. When Lord Chaitanya met Srila Ramananda Raya of Kavor on the bank of the Godavari, the Lord developed all these symptoms, but because of the presence of some non-devotee brahmanas who were attendants of the Raya, the Lord suppressed these symptoms. So sometimes they are not visible even in the body of the first-class devotee for certain circumstantial reasons. Therefore, real, steady bhava is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires, which is called kshanti, utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, which is called avyarta kalatvam, and that's explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 23.18-19. Next, eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly. This is called namagane sadaruchi. This is explained in Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 23.32. And then attraction for living in the land of the Lord, pritistad vasati stale, pritistad vasati stale. So one is pritistad vasati stale. That's without the elongated vowels, and or anyway, so in other words, attraction for living in the land of the Lord is another symptom of a pure devotee. And then complete detachment from material happiness, virakti, is another symptom. And then pridelessness, mana sunyata. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities, there are 5 of them, is really possessed of the bhava stage as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee. The whole process can be summarized as follows, with the process of becoming purified. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner, in other words, not committing any of the 10 offenses, is friendly to everyone, and is friendly to everyone, can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. So here's the criterion for recognizing someone as a bona fide Vaishnava with by manifestation of these 5 transcendental symptoms, which are again cessation of material desires, 1. Utilization of every moment, every second of one's life in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, that's 2. Eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly, 3. Attraction for living in the land of the Lord, in other words, living in a holy place, which can include a temple, or going to Vrindavan or Mayapur, or these holy places, and living there. And 5, complete detachment from material happiness. Actually, there's, in other words, complete detachment from material happiness. And 6, there's 6 points, pridelessness, mana sunyata. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhava stage as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee. So that's manifested by the sahajas, okay, like mundane devotees. Okay, so the advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord, and the result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of all material desires as mentioned above, etc., these 6 points. The neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulations without following the acharyas. Well, yesterday I was talking to Namita, what's her spirit's name? Anyway, I'll think of it in a second. So, she was telling me about Navakishori, yeah, because she has become very famous on the devotee web page, Desire Tree, and she finally reached 1 million people who watched her video, watched one of her videos. She has other videos, they're in the hundreds of thousands, but she finally got one that's 1 million. So someone connected with her from the United States, and it's a person who was a member of ISKCON, but left, right? But it's still, ISKCON-ish, right? And this person told her that, he really loves her seminars, and it's right on for him. And then he started explaining to her what he does now, right? And he told her that he's advocating polyamora. Now, what is polyamora? That means having many different lovers. In other words, even if a person is married, they can have a polyamora relationship. Amora means love or sexual love. Poly means many. So you have many sexual partners. Right? So here's a guy who claims to be Krishna conscious, was trained in ISKCON, and now he's a big advocate of polyamora. So what does that mean? That means that he is a Pakrita Sahajya, an imitation devotee. Why? Because what's the criterion? Not only Vishwanath Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated these cheap devotees critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees, the Prakrita Sahajas. But the pseudo-symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. That's the point. So here's a guy who's claiming to be Krishna conscious, who claims to be trained in ISKCON, who's initiated by Prabhupada, right? But he's advocating polyamora. So he's a nonsense. But he listens to her lectures, and he really appreciates them. Blah 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 blah. But he's advocating polyamora, right? And he's trying to convince her that she should add that to her, repertoire of lectures. This is like insane. People are insane. They've gone no. Actually, he lives in San Diego, in California. It's not surprising because there's so many crazy people in California. They're all hodgepodge. They mix everything up. Okay, we'll stop right there. So, very interesting points. You see how even 500 years ago, and even 5,000 years ago, there were many nonsense people, right, pretending to know something about spirituality, but actually making a mockery of it by their loose behavior. Right? And even in the time of Lord Chaitanya, there were so many pseudo-devotees. So it's not surprising that there's so many today also. Hare Krishna. We'll stop right there.
It seems like since the time we all separated from Krishna, that is the nature, which is to deviate from the scripture. So it's not unusual that we are saying. We have seen it in the history also, in the scriptures.
Yeah, it's happening all over. It's happened in the past. It's happening now. And we have to be able to discriminate between someone who's really following Krishna consciousness and someone who's just imitating it. They're imitating it to get notoriety, to be recognized as someone important, as a spiritual mentor or something. But actually, they're nonsense. And there are many people like that now. Many, many people like that. They're pretending that they have spiritual advancement, right? Because they studied something in ISKCON, or they did a kitchery between ISKCON and Shaivitism, but it's always about developing superpowers. Just like a Sadguru, he's promising people that they can make them supermen. Haribol. Beware of all those promises. Beware of those promises.
If someone is promising for powers, so it's an indication that it's
They're going to cheat you.
They cheat.
They're cheaters. Like you have these Hollywood stars now going to see a Sadguru. Right? That just shows who they are also. They're also just people who want to dominate. So they're going to him to find out how they can have internal, what do you call it?
Inner engineering.
Inner engineering. they come up with, he attracts these phony people by being a bigger phony than them. Right? So, inner engineering. What the heck does that mean? Right?
But this is not a very difficult to see, like people are getting initiated by Prabhupada and then they are diluting the philosophy.
Because they have their own agenda. Four kinds of people come to Krishna. Person in distress, the person who wants to get rich, person who is curious, and a person who really wants to know what is the truth. Right? So the one that wants to get rich, he'll learn some things in Krishna consciousness, and then he'll go out and do his little kitchery and make money by doing that. There's a lot of people who have done that. A lot of people. How about this Adita? He was using Prabhupada's books to preach from, right? But he just changed one point. That is that he claimed himself to be Krishna. But he was using Prabhupada's books. This is, really horrible. But that's what happens in Kali Yuga. Okay. I know other devotees that did that, using Prabhupada's books, but making their own hodgepodge nonsense. It's very sad.
And so many people, those are influenced from them, they will be in weird spot, like they are learning all wrong. That's very unfortunate for those are following them.
Yeah.
Because such people have some influence and
Well, no, because the followers are people who have the cheating propensity also. That's why they were attracted to a cheater, not the real thing. Go ahead.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. Bandhu moi savadana made. Jahara prasade bhai e bhava doriya jai. Krishna prapti hoy jahan hoy de. Guru mukha padma vakya chitte te goriya gya. Arana kori ho mane asha. Arana kori mane asha. Sri Guru charane radhi aise udama gati. Je prasade pure sarva asha. चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिल जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिल जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ हो दया विद्या विनाशा जाते
भक्ति जाते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ हो दया विद्या विनाशा जाते
भक्ति जाते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेदे गाय जहर चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदमा जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदमा जनर बंधु लोकना लोके राजीवाना प्रभु गुरु दोया देहो मोरे पाद छाया
प्रभु कुल दोया देह मोरे पाद छाया
प्रभु गुरु दोया देहो मोरे पाद छाया
प्रभु कुल दोया देह मोरे पाद छाया
ये बेजास गुसु त्रिभुवना श्रीला प्रभुपाद पतित पावना जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निधि नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशधारिणे हे सरस्वती देवे
गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशधारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण
चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev ki jai.
Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parvajik Chasta Tala Satala Shri Shri Shimala's Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi ki jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapuri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Samavira Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Bhavani ki jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual masters are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord.
From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of the mercy, the friend of the poor, the Lord and the master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful to us. Use the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take your